There we go. Getting used to working on my equipment again. Let's see. Right there. Okay. It's been a minute since I've been here on this side of the camera for you guys, and I want to let everybody know that I appreciate you being patient with me. 2025 was not a very good year for me, but here we are. I'm hoping 2026 will be much better. I've been working on several videos, trying to get out to locations for you so you can see what's going on. This particular video is going to be on Moon Lake area. We call it the MoonLakeProjects. It will include talking about the copper map. I was able to get a hold of people and get the permissions to talk about certain things, and I think you're going to enjoy this video. Once again, I appreciate your patience. We have several lined up. We were going to try to get out to Hoyt Peak again. We're going to try to get out to some other areas that I think you'll find really interesting. So without further ado, sit back and enjoy this video, and I'd like you if you like it, and subscribe if you are enjoying it, because that'll let me know that I'm doing something right. All right, talk to you later. Have a good day.
I think we're good to go.
Okay. Today we're going to talk about the Moon Lake projects that you have, or how many projects do you have going at the Moon Lake? Because there's more than one. Since
Well,
the same project.
Yes, there is, but we'll limit it to
A couple.
two of them. The Moon Lake project would be, the copper map is where it begins, but there's two different things that comes from that, and one of them is a little touchy. I'm thinking about doing a interview on it. Just, I don't know why, but there's just some things out there that I would consider sacred. Okay. And they're some of the upper projects, if you will. I mean, we've got a lot of smaller projects, and you know, we could be working on them for the next 20 years and never find anything, but it's...
A lot of people are interested in the Moon Lake area.
Yeah.
I mean, even last year we had the Finnish guy come over and disappear there. But you know.
Yeah, don't do that.
He wasn't prepared for the winter or anything like that.
No, he wasn't prepared for the summer.
No. So, if you ever go out to Moon Lake area and you find some bones, it's probably that Finnish guy.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad that it happened, but it would have been nice if he'd have stopped and talked to a few people before he went
Yeah,
up.
they still haven't found him yet.
What's that?
They still have not found him yet.
That's what I hear.
Okay, you mentioned the copper map, and I've heard about it, and I know a little bit about it. But when did that all come about? I mean, who created the copper map? You mentioned it.
Okay, well, Dale Bascom's probably the main individual who is involved with the copper map because he's the one that eventually negotiated the purchase of it. But where it came from, according to the information I got, is Brigham Young commissioned Thomas Rhodes to go into a specific place in the Uintahs and survey the area and create a hand-drawn map. And yeah, of course, right off the bat, you got to ask yourself why. Why this area? Well, I've already talked to Dale, and Dale said that we're good to go. There's just one part of it that I'd be a little bit picky about what I'm going to say because it's an ongoing project and it's what we would consider a sacred project. The copper map itself, as I said, Brigham Young sent Thomas Rhodes up to survey a specific area. And what most don't talk about that have some knowledge about the copper map is why that area. And my personal opinion, two of the most important things in the Uintahs are on that map. And as you know, the map's been published, which is something that we did not want to happen. And unfortunately, there's one individual that has to take the blame for that, and I'll give you one guess who it was. I know what you're thinking, but it wasn't him. It was my mistake that got the copper map published. And Dale wasn't real happy at first, and I'm pretty sure it still sticks in his craw a little bit, but Dale's a very forgiving individual, and I think he understands why I did it, even though the ultimate decision to pass this copper map information to the individual who published it even though that happened, Dale's a good guy. And I had to beg for, well, I didn't have to because Dale's very forgiving, but I've been kicking myself ever since I did it. I trusted him. He told me he wouldn't publish it, and he did. And I was ticked.
Let's talk about the copper map a little bit.
Okay. Where'd it come from?
Yeah, where'd it come from?
After Thomas Rhodes went up and surveyed the area. Thomas Rhodes was a surveyor by trade. At least that's what I'm told. After surveying the area, they took it to, I think it's James Barlow was the name. He was an engraver, sculptor type individual. And he was asked to engrave this map on a sheet of copper to establish a permanent record, something that would survive life's mishaps. And in this particular case, it was actually in one fire, but it survived. This map, in my estimation, was made for the purpose of documenting those two sites I told you about. Although there are a couple other things on it, but there's two most important. One of those is the sacred mine. And, you know, you've heard people talk about sacred mines and the Kerry Chenab, and you know, there's one in White Rocks, and there's one in Rock Creek, and there's one elsewhere, and you know, you have all these Kerry Chenabs and all these sacred mines, and granted, there is more than one sacred mine, but everything out there isn't the sacred mine, and everything out there called the sacred mine is not the Kerry Chenab. back to the question, which was,
What about this copper map?
that didn't help.
Okay,
I'm
so
getting old.
why, who did it and why? You kind of said who was commissioned to engrave
Okay,
it,
okay.
and it was by the,
It was for the purpose of documenting at least two of the most important
and that was
sites
by
in
the
the
Church of
Uintahs.
Jesus
One
Christ of
of them
Latter-day
was the
Saints?
Sacred Mine. The other was
Okay, things you don't want to talk
the
about.
actual Kerry Shinab.
Okay.
Okay. Now,
So,
in order for, just so that we can leave that and walk away from it,
okay.
there's a lot of reasons why I know that it is the Kerry Shinab, reasons that I'm not going to discuss here. Everything and anything that we know about the Kerry Shinab, I don't think out of all that information there's one thing that you can actually prove, okay? And the majority of what we've heard about the Kerry Shinab come from Kerry Rossbourne's book. And I'm just going to leave that there and not comment further.
But you have other reasons to believe that it's...
You bet I do. And those are the things that in this matter, I'll guard closely.
okay.
So back to the other thing, the sacred mine. The sacred mine that I'm talking about is the mine in which Chief Wakara gave Brigham Young permission to go and get the gold to help get the Mormon church started. Excuse me, LDS church.
So was this map commissioned by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Say again?
This copper map was commissioned by Brigham Young.
Yes.
So in behalf of the church.
Yes. That map, from what I gather, and this came through several sources from the original, but it was in a specific slot in the church archives, and in 1901 it turned up missing. I'm not exactly sure how this went down, but individual, and we won't mention his name, that Dale knew was laying carpet at this guy's house that lived up by the Provo Temple. And apparently he had the map sitting on his desk. And, you know, I mean, what's the chances this carpet layer is going to know anything about this? You know, didn't worry about putting it away. And I guess over the next couple days, the carpet layer took the opportunity to go and take some little pictures of various spots on the map. Now, that could have also been as a result of this carpet layer talking to the man who had the map, and the man mentioned that he wants to sell it, along with some other things that were in a box, other maps also.
Did this man have a name?
He does, and we believe we are closing in on who it was, but Dale never spoke to or communicated with this man directly. It was always through the middleman, the guy that was doing the carpet. He didn't want anybody to know who he was. From what I gather, he was concerned about his family name being tarnished.
Because his grandpa's the one that might have.
His grandfather was the one that stole it from the church archives. It could have been a great-grandfather, but as I recall, it was his grandfather. Anyway, eventually they negotiated a sale. Steve Schaefer was partially involved at the time. He had received some little clips of the map. In fact, I have all those pictures that he had. He sent them to me. And he actually created his own by, I guess he thought he put them together correctly and created his own copper map. And that's what he showed people for quite some time, and it was not correct. It was,
All the information was not there.
I'm going to say it wasn't even close.
Okay.
But because of that, I kind of felt bad for him, and that was part of the reason why I made him promise that, I wasn't going to say his name, but I made him promise that he wouldn't publish it, and he told me he wouldn't, and then he did. So there's a blunder on Steve's part. Oops.
We all make mistakes.
Have I left anything out, or do you want me to go into more detail on anything?
Well, so we're assuming that since we're talking about the Moon Lake project, that the copper map is of the Moon Lake area.
Yeah.
Does it include more area than Moon Lake, or just specifically around Moon Lake?
It goes beyond the lake, yeah.
So when Dale purchased this map, I understand that he received other things as well. That was kind
He
of
was
cool.
supposed to receive other things. He did receive another map. He got the silver bar. Seems like there's something else, but I can't put my finger on it. And there were some items still in the box that he never got. And the reason he never got that box is because Steve published a story about it and included little snippets of the map.
Of the pictures that he had.
And this individual, the grandson of the guy who stole it, did not like that. It pissed him off because he didn't want anybody to know about it. I mean, he's one person away from being exposed, but fortunately for him, the guy that made the oath to him that he would never say anything has stuck to it. He's not talking. But we're still hot on his trail. I and another friend of mine. Sooner or later, we'll figure out who it was.
We talked about the copper map is mainly of the area of Moon Lake, but there's other symbols on that map that you've been able to locate, like the eye and...
Yes. I got a phone call one day and asked if I wanted to come and see this copper map. And as I recall, I invited a friend of mine to come with me. And we went up, we took pictures of it, very good pictures. And I think Dale's purpose in that was to get some help in figuring out exactly what these things were on the map. And Dale's showed it to several people, and he's had a lot of people come back with their ideas of what this is and what that is. And you know me, if I don't know what it is, I'm not going to tell you until I figure out for sure what it is. And so I would have to say that the biggest helper that I had, and I don't mean to diminish him because he's a very intelligent individual, and he's a critic, like me. And he helped me with this. He spent a lot of time up there with me, Alan Lowe. Hey, Alan. And we're confident that we have found most everything on that map. There's one thing that we didn't find because it appears that the Forest Service went up and blasted it off the side of the mountain. That would be Don Foot's writings because they are not where they should be.
So what is Don Foot's writings?
I'll be honest with you, I'm real foggy on Don Foot, but Don Foot found some writings somewhere in the Uintahs. That was the only story we had for a long time. Daryl could possibly tell you more about those writings and what story it was that brought them about, but we're pretty sure these are the Dawn foot writings, but we believe they've been destroyed. I don't know much more about them. Nobody ever knew what they were. And it's a story that came out long before the copper map was even known.
Okay, so the copper map alludes to the fact that there was some writing somewhere for Dawnfoot's. Okay.
Well, that would be the common sense conclusion, is it's on the map, so this must be where it's at. And that's when we realized, well, these are the Dawn foot writings that Dawn Foot had explained that he found on a ledge somewhere. And I don't remember whether he gave any idea where that was. I don't remember reading the story. I just remember seeing the Dawn foot writings long before the copper map even came to be known.
Interesting. It's the first time I've heard about that.
Then there are some other writings, and one of them I noticed right off the bat, because it's been, close to 35 years now that I've been involved in the Native American petroglyphs. And I have focused on Levan Martineau's theories. And there was an inscription on that map that I could see plain as day was Native American petroglyph. And I remember showing it to Dale, and Dale said, well, why would there be Native American petroglyphs on this map? And I said, well, why would Dawn Foot's writings be on this map? He said, well, that's probably where they're at. And I says, exactly. There were some other writings next to it that I don't recognize, but I have a sneaky suspicion of their origin. And I believe they are written somewhere up there on a ledge or a rock. And I don't believe we have ever put a recognizable effort to go and find them. But I think we need to. But the one I recognized right off the bat, and I knew what it was talking about, but I had to verify it. And back then we didn't have Google Earth. I remember using a USGS map, topographical map.
I remember going up there, and I went with you and some other people. But the things I saw back then, were on the copper map, but the trees were still alive. The last time I went up there, the trees were gone because there was a fire that went through there.
Yeah, there's a fire that went through there. We'll come back to those symbols.
Okay.
Let's go over to the trees. On the copper map, there's a specific way it was drawn on the map that let you know that that tree that it's referring to had something on it, some probably carved symbol.
Right.
We found there was one that was what we call the one league tree. I have to give credit to Daryl Sprecher for finding it. And he pointed it out to me a year before, but I just couldn't see it. And I remember looking at it and going, and went about my business. And a year later, we come by there again, and I'm looking at the tree, and I said, well, there's the one league tree. Daryl says, well, yeah, I showed it to you a year ago. I sat there for a second. I said, what did I do? Just go, turn around, walk away? And he says, yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. He said, I even have a picture of you with it. And he showed you a picture of you. Oh, I guess I did.
Oh, he pisses me off sometimes.
He's a smart individual.
What's that?
He's a smart individual.
Well, it was his day to see it. He could see it. I couldn't, not that day. Mm-hmm. But a year later, I looked at it, and I immediately knew what it was. And we got a good laugh about it. And he still teases me about it to this day.
So what does the one league tree point to?
A mining area that's 1 league away.
Okay. There are other trees that were burnt down that pointed to the sacred mine.
Well, there's one up there that everybody called the owl tree. But when I was standing there looking at it one day and cocking my head back and forth, I said, that's not an owl. It's a heart.
It's a heart.
Because you could tell by the way it had grown in.
And there's also a heart.
Oh, we'll get to that. I thought, I've got an increment bore, and so I began to bore around the edge of the tree and around what they called the owl symbol, but we actually found the outer boundaries of that carving, and it is absolutely a heart. Well, when we were standing there looking at it one day, there was another tree next to it that had 18 hack marks in it. And I can't remember who was there that day, but this, why would there be 18 hack marks? This actually looks like somebody was just sitting here bored one day and hacked the tree 18 times. And no, I just couldn't see that. Mm-hmm. We later found, let's see, on that map it shows an all-seeing eye, but not the one that we found. That one wasn't even on the map. I don't know why, but it's not. But we did find the one that is on the map, and it was basically an outline of rocks, and it actually had an eyeball, and you could see that the pupil was looking towards the mine, but we didn't know where the mine was yet. The next part's difficult to explain, but on the map were these 4 circles that formed a diamond. And I remember looking at it, and I showed it to Alan Lowe, and I said, you notice the mine, if you line these 2 dots up here, these circles, it looks to be an equal distance to the mine. And I said, I'll bet you if we line those 2 up and pull a string over the top of it and then double it, and then take that and finish it out, I'll bet you it takes us right to the mine. Well, sometime before we did that, we had found this thing that we call the all-seeing eye. And it's large rocks that form an eyeball with what we would have to call a pupil. And when we found that, I remember, no, it wasn't then that it hit me. We just made note of it, took pictures. And when we pulled that string out, I'm standing on the old trail, the old Spanish trail, and I'm thinking, why would it be here? I can't see a mine dump, I can't see a tunnel. And I turn around and there's that all-seeing eye. And it hit me. Dale had another map. And I believe that the individual who drew the map drew it based on what he heard, not what he saw. Because on it, it showed a rock with an eye carved on it. And 11 paces in front of it was the mine. So I paced it from the eye made out of rock, not the eye on the rock. And it was 11 paces where I was standing. And the short of it is, we're standing on top of the sacred mine. Well, also somewhere in the story from this Aaron guy, Aaron is the name that was given to this unknown man who had the copper map, whose grandfather stole it. It's a nickname that I think Dale may have given him. I don't know. There was Aaron and the Bishop.
And which were 2 fictitious names, but they had identified the individuals.
Yes, other than the other guy was a bishop at one time. That's what I got.
Okay, before we talk about Aaron and the Bishop, you first said that you couldn't see any mine dump or anything like that.
No.
And why was that? But even though you found the mine, because the mine went straight down, right?
Well, a typical way of doing things, what the Spanish would do, especially if they had slaves, is they would dig down 15 feet and then they would go into the vein that they'd intended. The reason for that's twofold. One is so the Indians aren't able to escape all at once, that have to come out one at a time, and when they come out, they'd kill them if they tried to escape. The other reason is they only had to backfill at 15 feet instead of the 30 feet that was in the regulations. And I actually finally found a source for that. I don't know where it is, and I'm not going to go look for it. I saw it, satisfied me, I'm done.
You found a regulation of
Where it required them
30
to
feet
bury
backfill.
it 30 feet when they left the mine. I could probably find it again, but I don't want to. There's just some things to me that don't matter. Where was I going?
The 15 feet straight down.
I was also told that sometime in the 40s that this Aaron and the bishop went to that specific location that we were just talking about and opened it up.
Is that specific location considered the sacred mine?
Yes, and that they took out certain items for their own benefit. They didn't take everything, they just took what they needed, I guess.
Which would follow the story of Thomas Rhodes going in and just coming right back out, because he didn't have to mine anything, he just take stuff.
Well, there were some things inside the mine that insinuates that that is the mine that Thomas Rhodes went in, and one of them was that it had a table, a small table, had a lantern up above it, and an old Book of Mormon sitting on the table. And then there were leather bags with gold ore in it. I'll stop there because the other things that I think I heard, I couldn't swear to, so I'm not gonna even mention it. But when they went down into it, that 15 feet, they said they used a chicken pole ladder. Okay.
Yeah. Which is also burned up.
One of the things that we found up there when we were trying to figure all of this out, laying up by the newer trail, was about a 12-foot chicken pole ladder. It was pretty old. It could have easily have been the 40s. And we just left it laying there because we knew it probably had something to do with the mine, which wasn't too far down below. We just couldn't figure out why would somebody carry it up here. Well, one day I was out there, and I think Steve Schaefer was there that day. And I was leading him up the old trail and heading up towards where the trail split, just so I could show him. And I says, and by the way, I says, have you ever seen this chicken pole ladder? And he says, yeah. He says, we found that years ago. It's quite an effort to bring it up here. And I remember what he said. He said, bring it up here, which that's what you'd have to do if you brought it up from the mine location. Later in this same conversation, I said, so do you remember where you got it from? Now, the first part that I just said, that, oh yeah, we found that, and it took quite an effort to bring it up here. I was going to take it home with me, is what he said. And he says, I decided just to leave it here. So I'd already heard him say, bring it up here. And then we went on talking about something else, and then it kind of reverted back to that. And I says, so where did you find it? And he points up. Oh, it was up there somewhere. And I'm like, you lying. But Steve would do things like that. And I'd usually hold his feet to the fire, because I wanted to be his friend. I wanted him to trust me, and I wanted to trust him. And the only way I could ensure that is whenever he got caught, by my standard, contradicting himself or doing something I thought was a little shady, I'd ask him about it. Tell me what you did and why you did it. And it helped the relationship. And I believe it brought him to that point to where he no longer did that to me. until we come to the mummy caves.
Yeah, it's like, come on.
That one, he gave me 2 different locations, and I called him up. I ripped his butt.
3 locations.
I remember 2.
Well, the first one wasn't even over there. The first location wasn't even in that range.
No.
It was somewhere else. Then you had one.
And then the second one, I'm not sure whether I created the second one based on the information or whether, no, it was Steve, because I told him, I said, is it the mountain range that's on the west where the, we'll just say the geode beds are.
Right.
And he says, yeah, that's the one, but it wasn't. It's the one across the valley. So 2 of them, but both were wrong. And that might be where he thought it was. I don't know. The only reason I know it was the 3rd location, by the way, we're off topic.
I know, we're talking about
The only reason I knew it was the 3rd location is because my scoutmaster from years before told me about a cave that he found in the same place that had several mummies on shelves. Egyptian wrapped mummies. Now, I'm not saying Egyptians were here, but Hebrew were definitely here. Okay, in fact, I'm a strong proponent that no Egyptian has ever set foot on this continent. Anyway,
that's a whole new story. That was my very first video.
Now, how do we get off of this?
Steve Schaefer, not saying.
Oh, the chicken pole ladder.
Yeah, chicken pole ladder.
Well, we found some site trees up there too. What the site trees are is there'll be an area about this big, and you can see the axe marks in it, and it's heavily grown over. And we were trying to figure out why there was one on each side of the tree. And if you put your fingers in both of them and lay a straight stick across your hands, it points right to the mine. So we just call them site trees. Those are the only 2 trees that survived the fire. And they're still there. The heart tree's gone, and we got to come back to what was below the heart tree.
Right, that's what I was about to say.
The big blaze tree's gone. The big blaze up on top of the hill is gone. I mean, it's
these are all
nothing.
These are all drawn on the copper map as well.
They were on the copper map.
Yeah.
Well, surprisingly enough, only 2 of them were on the copper map. But every other tree that we found there is gone also. There's still pieces of the owl tree or the heart. Whoever cut the tree down after the forest or after the fire started their wedge right in the middle of the heart. They had to have known what they were doing. They had to. And I remember asking one of the Forest Service guys, why would they cut it down? Wasn't hurting anything. Yeah, it was dead.
None of the rest of them were cut down.
He says, well, it's kind of a danger to people coming through here. Well, first off, nobody's supposed to be going through there. That's the old trail. They intentionally diverted the trail up higher and around that edge. And I pointed over at another tree that's leaning. It's dead. It's every bit as big as the heart tree was. I said, why wouldn't you cut that one? It's hanging over the trail too. And why wouldn't you cut that one down? Oh, it's not a concern. None of it made sense. Anyway, now we got that off my shoulders, so.
Okay.
So there's only 2 trees left. I mean, it's sad. We got pictures of them. So, we can say, see, this is what it looked like. But there's only maybe 2 people left that can take you up there and say that tree was right here. And this is the way it faced. If you don't know that, they don't just serve you no purpose.
There's only a couple of people that are alive now that can go and say, here's the mine right here.
Yeah.
Which, yeah.
There's a few. I mean, I got a picture of one of my friends that kind of helped in all of this, and he's sitting on it with his dog, but you can't tell where you're at. In fact, I think it's in one of my articles, and I said, here's my buddy Darren and his dog sitting on the sacred mine.
Yeah. I remember you taking people out from the rendezvous.
Yeah, I'd take groups of people up there and show them the basics. But there's just some things you don't want to show anybody.
They were walking right over the top of it, and they never knew it.
I mean, there's bound to be some people watching this that's going to say, well, why didn't you do this? And why didn't you do that? And I would have dug it up, or I would have done that, or have you ever found anything? Well, yeah, I love that question. Have you ever found anything? Like treasure? No. You mean gold and silver bars? No. Why? I don't look for them. That's not why I'm doing it. And that's very hard for some people to conceive, is how can gold and silver not excite you? Well, I get a little bit excited over silver. I like silver, okay? If I found a couple bars, am I gonna leave them there? Oh, hell no. They're going home with me. But I'm generally not looking for that. I'm looking for the history. I want to see what's not on the map. I want to see what's on the map. I want to unravel the mystery behind it, and that's why I do it.
Yep, that's what got me into it.
I didn't want to get involved in this Spanish stuff. I was perfectly content chasing Indian writings.
Well, let's talk about what was on the ground.
Oh yeah, right by the heart tree, we were trying to figure out what those 18 hacks were all about, and I'm sitting there, and I'm looking at this rock, which I did not recognize. And I hope that one individual out there is listening to this so that he can see, even after what he did to me, I still recognize the fact that he's the one that noticed it, okay? And I'm giving him credit for it. I noticed a circle of rocks, and I counted them. There's 18 of them. I thought, okay, we got 18 rocks here in a circle. We got 18 hacks on the tree. And I looked down the old trail towards the all-seeing eye. I thought, I wonder. So I started pacing it. That's 18 paces. So now I went home and ended up on the phone with this individual. He says, make sure you don't miss that heartstone that's at the base of the tree. And in those days, if you mention heartstone, that's too Ken-worthy for me.
Right.
Well, I go back there, and sure enough, there's a rock that's in the middle of the 18 stones, and it's shaped like a heart. I got to give him credit. I don't know if he's the one that originally found it or seen it.
So that heart was a starting point for the 18 paces.
Yeah. And then right up where you make a turn to take your last couple paces, there's one rock standing up on its side. It's like it's pointing right at the mine. And I'm still on the fence about it, but I'm sure it's possible to find many stones out there standing up on their side.
Okay, so we have the location of the sacred mine, and people have asked you, why didn't you dig it up? But people have actually done and dug it up.
Back in I think it was the 40s.
And that was Aaron and the bishop, right? Mm-hmm. So tell us a little bit about that.
There's not much to tell. I've already told it. They went there, they dug it up, they took for their needs, they mentioned a few things that they saw in it, and they covered it back up. And you can't tell there's a mine there. The only reason I think that there's no mine dump is that the mine is extremely old, and a majority of the tailings were scattered, because it looks pretty natural around there. Mm-hmm. And there is a hill there that could have been, I don't know, could have been a mine dump, but a lot of time's passed. And what I mean by ancient old mine, I'm talking 1,000 years ago, 1,500 years ago. It's an old mine.
Okay, so are we talking about Roman?
Not necessarily. Maybe Nephite.
Nephite? And
For those of you that don't believe they were here, how about Greek? There's been a lot of cultures here.
okay, other than the eye, what other symbols were that would be located, or those can you talk about yet?
Okay, whether they were on the map or not, I'll try to point it out as we do. We found what we call the all-seeing eye, but it's not the one that's by the mine. It was done with small pebbles, and I don't know how old it is. I mean, the rocks are only about this big, and they're spaced, but it's an eye. I mean, it's plain as day.
Is that the one that's down by the dam? Or the...
No, it's further north and on the east side of the trail, down off the hill. In fact, of the 3 circles of stones that I mentioned earlier that are in the shape of a diamond, if you go to the north one, it's maybe within 150, 200 feet north of there. And there's some other strange things around there too. Up higher on the hill, there's a square that's laid out with stones, and we don't know what they are.
Okay. When I went up there a long time ago before the fire, there was a blaze. There's marks on pine trees going up where there were square nails and stuff, where the horses, they'd lead the horses maybe up to there.
Did you go up a gully?
I was at the top already, and the indications were going down. And I think some people tried to dig that up right there at the top, but there was symbols and stuff saying where to go, but
Do you
there
remember
was
the
like a
trees?
corral or something.
Do you remember the trees that had the trail marker symbols, the dot and the line below the dot?
Yeah.
Remember those?
Yeah.
Remember the one that didn't have any bark on the tree?
Right.
Okay. Is that where you're talking?
I'm not sure. It was on the way to the other area.
Probably gonna send you a bunch of photos to insert at places.
I think it was used to bring the horses up, and then they corralled them up there.
I think I know where you're talking, and it's the same place I'm talking. I was going to show you a tree, but unfortunately I can't chew bubble gum and talk at the same time. I'm not even sure I'm in the right file folder. Yeah,
I just remember someone going back up there and trying to dig that area up. I didn't find anything.
Well, I was going to show you a specific tree because it's right up there at the top of the hill, but it didn't make the fire either. The symbol itself, let me see your pen. It looks a lot like no, we don't want to say that. It looks like this on the tree.
Right.
But not quite as profound. Stretch it out.
Right.
And in fact, the bottom is more squared off. But there were 2 of those up there, and we never did figure out what they were. And one of them is on the copper map. It tells you the tree has something on the side of it. Mm-hmm. But we don't know what the meaning of that is. I've come to think that it may be marking a vein, a significant vein, just because there was the one on the top of the hill, which is now, I mean, completely burnt, gone. There's nothing left, not even ashes. And the other one was on the other side of this gully, and the trail went up right through the middle. So The second one, I can't show you exactly where it was, but I can show you about where it was. The other one, I could probably stand right on the spot. But
It's sad that that fire went through there because that was a lot of history.
I've thought that someone needs to go up there and get a GPS coordinate on every location, tell about it, provide the photo, what direction was it facing, because if you don't know those things, they serve no purpose.
Sounds like a project.
But what's the purpose? Is it to find the mine that's 1 league up the trail? That's 2.5 miles, by the way. And there's ample evidence of Roman strip mining.
When the fire went through there, was you able to find better Google Earth locations, because there's no longer, I mean, you can see trails that were there that you didn't know were before.
No.
So the fire did no purpose other than destroy information.
Things are, well, I know that area so well that I can walk you to each location, except that one. I can get you pretty close to where it was because we never documented where it was.
Okay, so the other location, other than the sacred mine, is something we don't want to talk about right now.
Oh,
That
well,
we've been to before.
to a degree. I wrote articles about it. Because of the nature of some of the things that I wrote about, I guarantee you nobody has noticed, but I have pulled those articles off of Tuscoro.com. However, they are in the books.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable telling you why I pulled them off out of there, because it sounds a little conspiracy theory, and I didn't bring my tinfoil hat. Did you laugh at me? Did you introduce our guest?
I didn't.
We have our friend here with us. He's one of the newcomers. He's got excellent potential, except that he lives 2 or 3 states away. So, anyway, Dale Yoder.
I was gonna say, you still didn't introduce him.
Good guy. These are the kind of guys I like to find. There's some out there that in those first phone calls, you can pretty much tell whether it's somebody that you want to involve or not. And I can't explain that. It's just, you have to be the one that's there listening to it. But anyway, back to where we were.
Well, this whole conversation was about the copper map and things related to it, locations. Why?
Really?
Well, I hope so.
Can you tell me about it?
No, I forget as soon as you said it.
Okay, the other location. As I said, I noticed that there was what I would call Native American petroglyphs on the map. And I immediately recognized it as directions, okay? The reason I recognized it as directions was because it's a geographical feature, and it would take some time to explain how you know that. But once I did, you will know whenever you go onto a petroglyph site, you'll be able to pick out geographical features, okay? And I'm not trying to give credibility to Kenworthy here, because this has nothing to do with Kenworthy. Some of you know what I'm talking about. But there was another set of writings right next to that. Let me go back. Because I understood it to mean what I believed it to mean, I went and got a USGS map. Keep in mind, geographical feature. And I knew that if I was right, it was going to show up on a USGS map. Wouldn't be as good as if you could see it on Google Earth, but we didn't have Google Earth and we didn't even know it was coming. So I went and got the USGS map for that area, and I started looking over it, and it only took me a few seconds. Oh my God.
It's right there.
I was right. It's the exact same shape. And it's not a shape you would normally see in Mother Nature. And it was very similar to a couple of tree carvings. Anyway, so me and my friend Alan took this USGS map and we found the coordinates, plotted a course to where we knew that it was directing you to. And we were standing 100 feet away from the target and didn't know it. And we were standing there and we're looking around, and Alan says, "Hey, check that out." I looked up there and there's this big pile of rocks. I mean, big rocks, you know, that I'd have been damn tired after trying to stack them rocks up.
Yeah, big rocks are about
They were big. And he looked at me and I looked at him, and about the same time, that's not natural. And so, once again, I was right. And we get up there and we get snooping around, and there's one person still out there that can give me grief, okay? And when he's dead, then I can speak more freely. But we did find one more thing that told us that this is where we need to be. I wish I could go into further detail.
And this location you can't mention about, I mean, the symbol you can't mention about, it talks about a location that you are working on right now.
I'm actually not working on it. It's in, we'll call it limbo mode. We've done everything we can do without breaching it, which is something that we know we don't have permission to do yet. Okay? I'm going to tell you something that happened. It was months after the copper map. I mean, maybe even a year or two before we noticed this. And it was a friend of mine that just, his perspective that day, he said, "Hey, have you ever looked at this?" And I said, "No, why would I?" He explained it to me. And turns out that's the kind of thing you got to listen for, is somebody that can see something that you can't. Once he showed it to me, I could see it. And I'm not talking about Kenworthy rocks. But one day I took this individual up there because I wanted to show him, because there was something up with him. Something was wrong. I kind of felt like I was falling out of graces with him. I can tell by your eyes when you're going to have to edit. And we were starting down the hill, and we look off in the distance, and there's not a cloud in the sky except this one little marshmallow poof way out there. And we started on down the hill, and that little cloud's getting bigger and bigger. We're about halfway down, and it's getting even bigger. Pretty soon it turns dark. By the time we got out of the trees down at the bottom, it had turned into a full-blown storm cloud. And next thing you know, we got lightning coming out of it. And not 5 seconds later, hailstones like this. And I remember thinking, I'm not supposed to take him over there. And so I didn't. We turned around and went back. That's the only time I ever got turned back. It was weird. As some people have aliens, I get strange feelings.
And he'll. That's a hard
I
thing.
got to go with my gut. I got to listen to my gut. I follow it wherever I go. Can't help it.
Was there a story? I don't know if it pertains to this area, but an Indian was wanted to show people where. He said if you just go past this area, you'd have more gold than you'd ever, or more wealth than you'd ever need, or. And then he ended up
To answer
dying.
your question, the answer is yes. And the story that you're talking about is Cump Murray.
Yes.
One day, Ed Twitchell, this story comes from Dale Bascom, and I'm positive he doesn't care whether I say it because I think he's actually published it.
I just wanted to say this is part of this area, this site.
Yeah, and this is an observation that I made, and I don't mind telling this story because it won't get you any closer.
Right.
Because there's a lot of deeper research you have to do in order to know what they were talking about. And I've done that. Okay. And we won't elaborate. But I guess Ed Twitchell, their Indian friend, Cump Murray, his nephew is alive and well. I don't know him. I've never met him, but I've talked to him on the phone. I'm not going to mention his name. He's a good guy. And I can't remember who the third party was, but they were in an old Jeep. And the whole purpose of the trip is Cump was going to take them to a place where he said that if we get there and we open this thing up, he says, you guys will never have to worry about finances again. And so they were all gung-ho, and they're on this old Jeep road. And that's part of it. You'd have to know where the Jeep road was. And they're on their way up. And, Cump's in good spirits, and Ed Twitchell's in good spirits. I mean, they're going to be rich. And they get about halfway up this road, and there's a big boulder in the middle of the road. So they left Cump in the vehicle, and the two white boys jumped out and went and moved this rock. And they come back and get the Jeep, and Cump slumped over, died of a heart attack. But he told them just before they got out to move that boulder, he says, all we got to do is get to the end of this road and a half mile past. And the place I was telling you about just a minute ago, that's where it is. There's actually two that fit the description, but I know it's the one down below because, and I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard that Cump's grandfather took him to the Karishanab. Did I say too much?
No. It's just.
There's some cool stuff up in the Uintahs. And the only thing I think that would make it, I don't know, cooler for other people is if I had that greedy crap in me. But I just don't. I want to find the stuff that was left behind. I don't care whether it's bones or whether it's gold.
Or Spanish armor.
Oh, I'd love to find some armor.
Right.
I got plenty of stories on where some of this stuff is, but you got to have the foot soldiers. I've gotten to the point where I just can't do it anymore. In fact, I rarely get more than 100 yards away from the road now. And it's because I'm sorting out all the things that has brought me to this point and trying to decide where to lay my blame. I'm here because of my own stupidity, okay? I'll take the blame. There's some people you can trust, there's some people you can't. But anyway, we got a lot of cool stuff to move on, and the boys have been busy this winter with LiDAR, having a blast, finding target after target to go and investigate.
So we talked about the Moon Lake and, of course, the copper map. Which,
Moon Lake? Where's that? Gotcha.
Did we not ever mention that?
I got even better than I thought I did.
Is there anything more on the copper map that you'd like to elaborate on, or anything that's not on the copper map but in this area that would be interesting for the people to know about, since we're talking mainly about the Moon Lake Project area?
There's the Tabernoso Cave, but ever since the floodwaters came down out of there, I don't even know if you can get up there anymore. When we went up there, right next to what we call Don Foot's writings, it says Tabernoso. Okay?
Right, I remember
Which is a cavern, okay? Or a tavern at one time where they served all kinds of cool whiskey and stuff like that.
Yeah, it's probably a cave.
Probably.
I don't think they'd be.
But from what I understand, and I can't remember who it was that told me this, it could have been Paul Tebby, but from what I understood, the river used to come down out of that canyon, and it went, and there was this long finger-like ridge that came through there, and it had carved a cave right through it, and there was a cavern inside. When we went up there, the lower part of what would have been the east entrance, if it's true, it was obvious that it had been blown up. And we think that's where the Don Foot writings were.
Oh.
So, but in a way, the map kind of confirmed it, because it says there's this cavern, but yeah, you go up there and there's no cavern. But you can see where it used to be. Must have been a hell of an explosion.
Why would they blow it up? I mean, why would you want to erase that?
Because of what was in the cavern. Well, you asked what reason.
Yeah, I'm just trying to
First
think.
thing that comes to my mind is because of what was in the cavern.
Could
have been carvings on the walls, could have been paintings.
They just didn't want anybody to see it.
Well, it wouldn't be the first time they did it. You know that highway that you drive to go out to Wendover? Okay, when you get past Grantsville, you have that point, and the whole end of that point's gone. Mm-hmm. Well, when they were cutting that highway and they broke into a cave that was covered with beautiful, elaborate paintings, most likely Native American, they blew it off the side of the mountain. You know, it's too much work to move the highway over or go around it. You know, let's just, nobody take pictures. Let's just blow this damn thing up and keep working. And the reason I know it happens because I knew the guy who was on the project when they blew it up. He's dead now. So I can't get him to come and say, yep, it happened.
It's sad.
That sticks in my craw like you wouldn't believe. It just makes me want to go find out who was over that project and why would they do that. So anyway, back to Moon Lake. Now that it was your fault.
No, we started out. You got me good though. Moon Lake Projects, mainly two of them, but we've talked about all the symbols. We talked about the copper map, the fire that came through. But I do think it would be a good project for whatever reason, so it don't just appear to do some GPS locations on them and explain each location.
We don't profess to understand half the projects. We only know that there's something there. It's obvious. We know that these are instructions. We know that they lead you to this place. We know that there's something at this place for various reasons. Sometimes we have hints of what is there. But if you don't go that extra step, which can often get you into trouble, then how are we ever going to know? You know what I mean? How can we prove it? Because you got so damn many regulations out there, and it all directs you to Smithsonian, the very people that we don't want to tell. I have a message for Smithsonian, but you'd have to edit it out.
Well, we'll leave it out then.
Okay. Thank God I don't have to moon anybody today.
Well, I think that'd be it then.
Well, fine then.
If anybody else has some more information on the copper map or the area of Moon Lake that they have information they'd like to share, you can put it in the comments, or you can get a hold of Dan at chiscoro.com. He'd be willing to share what he has, what he can share with you.
We're trying to get a little better organized in what we do. And we don't do it for anybody's benefit. We do it for the sake of history and uncovering the truth. That's hard for some to fathom.
Kind of like the name of this program is Legends Unearthed.
But we have some interesting things that will be coming this year. If you don't hear anything from me, or you don't know what I'm doing, it's probably because that's exactly the way I want it. Some of you have noticed that I've kind of backed off on writing articles. It doesn't have anything to do with being busy. It has to do with my own personal self-inflicted problems. I'm seeking, again, motivation. I don't know, there's been a few times I've just thought about tossing in the towel. Forget it. I'm done. But I can't quit. It's a disease. So I'll do the best I can. For those that would like to get involved, we hope to be providing a way in the future for people to get involved, more involved. Because I can't do it no more.
And you have a lot of projects going on at the same time.
Just because I can't go out there don't mean I can't participate.
Right.
You know, I'm always going to love doing this no matter what degree I do it. Don't let anybody tell you any different. There is some cool, historic, unknown mysteries, things up in those Uintah Mountains. It has a history that you wouldn't believe, and if I told you, you'd probably laugh at me. Can I go smoke now?
Yeah.
No, give it up.